excuse me. This is a 1 1/2 inch tall by 2 3/4 inch wide shape. So just like we did before, I'm going to set, so 2 3/4, we're going to find half of that. So that's going to be 1 3/8, right? So I'm going to set 1 3/8 on the center of my front view quadrant. Make a mark at 0, make a mark at 2 3/4, then swap out for my triangle. On the dot, I'm going to set 3/4 of an inch because the shape is 1 1/2 inches tall, and that's half of 1 1/2. Went out and bought myself a new triangle with a sharp corner at the bottom, so I don't have to do some of that trickery that I was doing before to, ignore the bottom rounded edge. Okay, looking at this now, we have some lines across the top, but instead of going ahead and drawing one all the way across and then erasing what we don't need, I'm just going to set my scale against my parallel rule and make a mark at the 1/2 of an inch, because the first section is 1/2 of an inch from the left side edge. And then I'm going to make a mark at 2 1/4, because our shape is 2 3/4, and there's a 1/2 inch line over here. And I'm just going to bring my parallel rule up and make the lines. There we go. Next, we have a little bit of information and a little bit of guessing that we would have to do normally if I was just giving this to you without some more information. And that information is that we know how long one of the legs of this angle is, but it doesn't explicitly tell us what the other angle is. The actual answer is that it's a 45-degree angle. So you're going to need your 45-degree triangle for this next part. And we're going to set our triangle on here. And I can't measure 3/4 of an inch down this hypotenuse because that would be wrong. Now you could do the math. A squared plus b squared equals c squared. In this case, c squared would be the measurement here. But it's just going to be easier if we do this. So I'm going to take my triangle. And it's also helpful because this is how we're going to have to do it isometrically as well. And I'm going to draw a dot 3/4 of an inch down. That should be halfway through our shape. And I'm going to do it for both sides now that I think about it. So 3/4 of an inch down. Then I'm going to take my parallel rule and come over 3/4 of an inch from the dot we just made and make another one. Do the same thing on the other side. That should make them about 1/4 of an inch apart. And then all we have to do is take our 45-degree triangle and draw to that dot. Same on both sides. There we go. And then the section in the middle gives us the rest of the information. So it's 1/4 of an inch down, 1/4 of an inch across. So I'm just going to draw those in. That finishes our front view. In order to do the top view, I'm just going to very simply set, let's do the 4-inch mark of my triangle on the center point of the top up here. And then, knowing that my shape is 3/4 of an inch wide, I'm going to, actually, hold on. Let's move this again. Let's set 3/8 of an inch to 3/8 of an inch on our center mark. And the reason I changed that is because since our shape is only 3/4 of an inch wide up here, now all we have to do is go from 4 to 4 3/4 to draw our lines. So I'm lining up with my right hand side of the front view, and at the top I'm driving 4 to 4 3/4. The corner of the step here from 4 to 4 3/4. This section here, 4 to 4 3/4. Same over here. Looking at my front view, something didn't go quite right. Not enough that I think it's actually wrong, but somewhere along the line we got a little bit off, because that box should actually be fully centered down here, and it isn't. But that's not enough of a goof that I would count off for it. There we go. We have all of those lines drawn, and then we just connect the bottom on both sides, and that finishes the top view after you finish the top. So that's the top view. And we're going to do pretty much the exact same steps for the side view. I'll set this here. We're going to put 4 3/8 there as well. That's just the easiest way to do it. And then ordinarily I wouldn't do this, but my architecture scale is pretty clean on the edge, like it hasn't been beat up. If yours has a few places where it looks like somebody's whacked it against the corner of a table, find a clean edge. But what we're going to do is just draw a line along our parallel rule from 4 to 4 3/4. And then we're going to slide up. I'm actually going to slide over a little more and use the 5-inch mark so that I can make sure I can get to this center section here. The key thing you have to do is press down on your parallel rule, your T-square, because if you don't, then part of your triangle can get underneath. Part of your scale can get underneath it, and if that happens, then your lines are going to be off. So, like I said, usually I don't let you do that, but we've been doing this long enough at this point that you can start taking some of the shortcuts, I think, without too much difficulty. Okay, and that takes care of the front, top, and side view, other than making these hidden lines, which you just need your erasing shield and to erase through those to take care of that part. But let's go up and do the isometric view, which is the new information for this. Because so far when we've done isometric views, we haven't had any angles to deal with. And we do today. Now, they are a 45-degree angle, but there really isn't a good way to use your 45-degree triangle when you're doing isometric drawings. There actually is one way that I can think of, but with the size, the size of our triangle, we wouldn't really be able to implement it. But I'll talk about it later. And it only applies to 45-degree triangles, so that's another reason why it's not super useful the rest of the time. But let's go ahead and start drawing the isometric view that we can do without knowing anything new. So I'm going to choose arbitrarily. I'm going to choose that spot right there as my lowest right-hand corner. Just as long as you have quite a bit of open space above it, we should be good to go. And I'm going to draw a 2 3/4 inch line from that dot. So I've arbitrarily chose the 6 3/4 inch mark as my start. And I'm going to measure up to 4. So 3/4, 1, 2. So there's my bottom line. did that right. It just looks weird. Okay. I'm not losing. Yeah, there we go. Okay. From there, we're going to turn our triangle upright and measure the 1.5 inch height from the back corner here. 1.5 inches up. I'll go ahead and do the same thing down here at the front. Or, I mean the bottom right corner. Okay. Then I can turn my triangle so that the hypotenuse is resting against the parallel rule and measure out those 2 1/2 inch sections. So from there to there, and from here to there, 2 1/2 inch sections. Now here is where the same technique we used to find the stopping point of the front view is going to come in handy for finding all of the information about the this view here. So we have our I apologize. So we have our starting point here. Come down 3/4 inch. Make a mark. While we've got our triangle in this orientation, let's do the same thing over here. Come down 3/4 inch and make a mark. There we go. Then turn our triangle and measure in 3/4 inch from that mark towards the center of the shape itself. And then do the same over here. Okay. Now just like we did before, except, well kind of, before we just used the 45-degree triangle, this time we're just going to take our triangle, put our pencil on the second dot we made, and line the other corner up with that part. Okay. Now you may be noticing something here, and that's unique to 45-degree angles as well, that my angle is actually 60 degrees on this set, or 30 degrees off the 90 up here at the top. That's because of the way that this whole thing is set up. Just like when we flip this over to do the other side in just a second, you're going to see this weird effect where everything lines up from the back corner of the shape we haven't drawn yet all the way through the bottom corner down here. And it's just a trick of the orientation of the shape and the angles that we've that have been chosen to do this. So, and I'll show you what I mean in just a second if you don't see it on the drawing. So let's go ahead and do the other side here. So there, go down to the point. There we go. Then just like before, we're going to measure from that point down 1/4 inch. Do the same on this side. Come down 1/4 inch. Connect them at the bottom. There we go. And then that's the front of view exactly drawn isometrically. Now let's build on that. Flip our triangle over and start drawing all of our lines that extend to the back. So we're going to start here, or we're going to draw one here and here. We're going to draw one right here. We're going to draw one right here, and one right here, and one right here. So all it is, it's this simple. And the distance that we're drawing that line is 3/4 inch. I'm going to set that there, line this up, and come back 3/4 inch. And then I'm going to do that same thing from all of those corners I just pointed to. If you didn't see which ones I pointed to, look at the shape that you've drawn and match it up with the 3D or the isometric drawing that should be on your screen. But you can see here what I was talking about a second ago, because this next line that I'm going to draw from the bottom corner, all of this lines up. And it's just kind of a trick of the way that this thing is drawn and the angles that went into making it. So from here, we're going to go 3/4 one more time, and then another time, and finally there we go. So that's most of our shape. All we have to do now is finish connecting the lines. And for this, I'm not even going to use the parallel rule, although it could help in some places. I'm just going to take the points we've drawn and connect them. I'm actually going to rotate this over, so I'm using the easier to use side. Connect that one to that one. I did make one premature toss of the T-square, and that's we do need to do a perfectly vertical line for this very last one right here, because we don't have a point to tell us where to stop other than the line going across right there. And that's it. So this is the type of isometric drawing that is really a lot more complicated when you're initially looking at it than it actually is to draw isometrically in the first place. And I also think that going through and doing the 3-view drawings for one like this beforehand helps you give you an appreciation of the shape you're about to draw isometrically. Again, like I was talking about last time, everybody has a different view of how hard something like this is. Like I said, some people who are high in geospatial reasoning skills can see this and go, oh yeah, that's obviously how that fits together, that's not a problem at all. And some people who are not high in geospatial reasoning skills looks at this and goes, yeah, I got nothing. So hopefully going through and doing bits and pieces of it in 3 views beforehand helps with that. Now, because I don't have my erasing shield, I am doing a bit of cheating to make these hidden lines, but it is a thing that we need to do. One of these days I need to bring that erasing shield back out to the shop. But that's it. So this is Lab 13. Today is November 12th, and that's insane. I don't know why I started to write November, because we do this in numerical format. So 1/1, 12, 20, 20. This is scaled as 1:1. And I am, as always, S. Brumbaugh. Alrighty. Now that I think about it, I don't recall actually changing the due date for this, so this might actually have popped into the gradebook as zeros to start with. Let me fix that real quick, because that is certainly not correct or fair to you. Go and come in here. Let's see, hopefully you can't see on the screen. Yep, let's get rid of all of those zeros that should not be in there. Set a default grade of nothing. Overwrite. Let it spin at me for a minute or two. And 26 grades have been updated. The zeros are now gone, and I apologize for that. Let's see here. What is, so 2 o'clock? Alright, so that was basically all we're going to add in for today. You got the next 10 minutes to get this turned in. And do get this turned in as soon as possible. I will say, next class, we're going to start off with So you're going to have an assignment during that class that is due during the class. It'll be very similar to this. It won't be anything that you haven't done before, but I will not be walking through it with you. It's not worth test points, but it is basically a test, but it's not going to be worth more than a normal assignment. So don't stress too much over it. I just want to see how well you guys are doing, without me hand-holding you through it. I want to see where we need to work on improvements in getting your assignments completed correctly, other than actually doing them and getting them turned in on time. But essentially that. So that will be most of the class on Tuesday or Monday. Monday. Sorry, I keep saying Tuesday. Be most of the class on Monday, and then we'll probably have a small review of what we're doing next at the end of that class. But other than that, got 10 minutes to get this turned in, and then I will see you guys on Monday. Have a good one, guys.